Somewhere at some point in time, we fell in love. I really don't know when. Like all relationships, it seemed to happen in the blink of an eye, from the blur of whatever you're doing before to a passionate, unquestioning love for the modern, handsome, beautiful interface of the moment. Apps. Maybe it was these gently whispered sweet nothings from all the way back in 2009. What's great about the iPhone is that if you want to check snow conditions on the mountain, there's an app for that. The commercial continued, our pulses quickened, and if you want to check exactly where you parked the car, don't tease me. We all know how to end that phrase. 6 beautiful trademarked words that may have unintentionally fenced this generation's limitations on technological creativity. There's an app for that. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is 99 cents to download. An app, just by being an app, doesn't guarantee that it produces anything of merit to anyone, anywhere. Please, shh. We must defend our loved one's honor. An app's creation is told of gospel, of wonder, and of miracle. We're blessed that someone wrote working code that somehow illuminated the dark mythical path to Apple or Google's app catalog. The New York Times featured an app of the week and had a reoccurring App Smart Extra column with heart-throbbing titles like A Weather App That Works. And during the financial crisis, the New York Times featured a Bloomberg app as App of the Week because it revealed, quote, basic stock market data. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I'll just turn on Talking Heads CNN and forget about my app Muse. Think again, my friend. Here are real CNN headlines. Stuck in snow? There's an app for that. Moody? There's an app for that. Remote sex? There's an app for that. No TP? There's an app for that. Can't sleep? There's an app for that. Passover? There's an app for that. Heart attack? There's an app for that. Save the whales? There's an app for that. Giving birth? There's an app for that. Dead? There's an app for that. I want to start off the lecture portion by looking at a picture of a toaster. This is actually a toaster from the late 1940s, a time in which we were inspired and enthralled by fast-moving things, by aerodynamic forms. And so we made this aerodynamic toaster. We loved fast-moving, streamlined trains, so we took that form and we made fast-moving, streamlined irons. Today, we're obsessed with something different. There's something else that affects the everyday objects around us. We're obsessed with gadgets and technology, even failed technology, like 3D television. And so we take our everyday objects and we do things like this. This is one of the top-selling toothpastes in the United States. It's called Crest 3D Whitening. And unlike all the other toothpaste on the market, this one is 3D. This is one of the top-selling sunglasses on Amazon. Promises you HD vision. This is how a mattress company today advertises for a mattress. Not with a picture of a mattress, but with a woman sleeping on top of a fully charged battery icon. Not to be left out, Doritos doesn't make their potato chips anymore. They 3D print them. These everyday objects are reflections of how our culture is being affected and engrossed by technology. One of the more interesting things to look at is what young people are studying as an indication of our future. And more people are choosing to study things related to technology. At Stanford University, which is a well-rounded school, it's shifted from being a psychology school to being a computer science school. At art schools around the world, less and less people are interested in graphic design or industrial design, and more people are interested in things like interaction design. There's all this excitement, all this momentum, all this talent that's here in this room and that's coming. But we're doing something unfortunate. We're setting a sort of low bar of what we can achieve. Because so often, no matter what the problem, we have the same answer. Question, how do you make a better car? Above is one of the earliest patent drawings for an automobile. The technologists of the day solved a real problem with transportation, and as a result, the car changed the way we live. So today, utilizing the amazing technological progress we made in the over 100 years since, what technique have modern technologists used to improve the car? Answer? Slap an interface on it. Who would need to look at the road while driving? Leaning over to touch a screen is so much more fun. Tesla is one of the most innovative companies in the world. That's why they've got a 17-inch touchscreen center console. Sure, there's some haters, some lost soul at The Verge wrote, I don't want a web browser in my car, and more importantly, I don't want the drivers around me to have one. But consider scroll bars in your center console. I know, amazing. Question, how do you make a better trash can? Answer, slap an interface on it. Hope you got this obvious one. You can make a better trash can by turning it into a $47,000 LCD recycling bin so that you can see if it's raining outside when you're standing outside in the rain. 100 of these incredible bins were installed in London just before the 2012 Olympic Games to help the city show off its futuristic wonders. And why not? Screens are so futuristic. This is a set of job listings from some of the top technology companies across the world. You'll see something unusual about these job listings. They advertise for these UX/UI designers. But user experience design and user interface design are actually two very different things. UI design is about all the components that go on a screen. It's a really important job to compose the screen, but it's very different than what user experience design is about. It's about understanding people and their problems and trying to solve those problems by using methods like design thinking. But when we confuse the two, when we confuse solving problems with making screens, well, make it someone's job to solve problems with screens. But good experience design, good UX, isn't a set of good screens. It's a good experience. There's a lot of confusion about design and technology today. Part of it is because designers are evaluated with some poor metrics. A design is good or bad based on things like how many clicks does it generate, how many taps, how addicted are our users, how hooked are they, instead of what design is really about elegance and efficiency, about creating a meaningful product for your customers. As a result, our output has become more and more screen time for more and more people. Children look at a screen for about 2 hours a day. Teenagers who are mostly in school look at a screen for over 7 hours a day. And adults, we really know better. We look at screens for over 8 hours a day. There are consequences of this kind of screen-based thinking. They're constantly distracted from friends and family. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control in the United States, estimates that 1,000 people every day get injured in a car accident because people are distracted by screens while driving. The color temperature of our screens mimics midday. It does that to produce these deep blacks and bright whites. But when you look at that color temperature at night, it's been scientifically proven to throw off our sleep cycle. The public radio network, WNYC in New York, had this awesome podcast series called Bored and Brilliant. It was about how studies show that our moments of boredom, those times in which we're truly bored, are actually our most creative moments. But with all these products and services trying to get you to look at a screen to try to solve micro-boredom, we're actually less and less bored as a society, and hence less and less creative. A number of studies show that when children look at screens, they become less empathetic towards each other. Understanding the behaviors and understanding someone who's unlike you is an important thing to do. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some good things about screens. These slides wouldn't exist if it wasn't for screens. You may not be here if it wasn't for the information delivered to you through a liquid display to tell you about this place. But there's a lot we can do to reduce the amount of screen time that's necessary in our lives. It wasn't that long ago that our lives were filled with paper, and there were some people crazy enough to believe in a paperless world. It took them a few decades, but now our lives are filled with screens. And I actually think we should believe and dream of a screenless world. I actually think that the best graphical user interface is no graphical user interface. And so I wrote this book about it called The Best Interface is No Interface, and it's filled with some fun language and different diagrams about how and why we can build this screenless world. The first principle of 3 principles in the book is to embrace typical processes instead of screens. This is some video footage of Dr. Michael Rothberg. A number of years ago, something happened to him that was undocumented psychologically in the medical field. Dr. Rothberg was curious if it had happened to anybody else. So, with another colleague in the hospital in which he worked in Massachusetts, he designed a survey for the medical staff. Astoundingly, they found that 68% of the medical staff that had that same undocumented psychological experience happened to them. They published results of their study in a medical journal, and a year later, the study was repeated at an undergraduate university. This time, they found that 90% of college students had that same psychological experience happen to them. What was it? What plagued Dr. Rothberg and clearly so many other people, and probably many of you in this room? Something called ring anxiety, or phantom vibration syndrome, which are words to describe the paranoia that your phone is buzzing and beeping when it's not. It's really no surprise. A few years ago, Kleiner Perkins found that the average smartphone owner gets about 150 notifications per day. A study last year done in the UK found that people check their phones over 200 times a day. It's all these products and services measured by how addicted and how many clicks and how many taps they can generate, buzzing and beeping in your pocket, screaming, "Let me out, take me out of your pocket, look at my notification, use me, use me." But there's a different way of looking at technology. There's a better way. Not a way of shunning it, but a way of taking technology to a new level. A way to create more meaningful products. This is the original icon for the Moves app. Visually, it's kind of ugly. And the Moves company has actually changed their app icon since they've been acquired by Facebook. But in their original icon, there was something really fascinating conceptually. It showed a picture of a phone in your pocket. Unlike all the other products and services buzzing and beeping, wanting you to take your phone out of your pocket, this one expressed wanting to be in your pocket. I thought this was kind of interesting when I first saw it. I thought it was kind of a back pocket app, an interesting concept. Now, the Moves app is just a digital pedometer, and to get any real value out of it, you have to end up looking at this data dashboard of how many steps you took. It's not that interesting of a solution. Conceptually, there was something there. Here's a different problem. Losing your keys. It happens to a lot of people. A lot of people spend a good number of minutes each day trying to find their keys. A startup called Lockatron tried to solve this problem by making an app. They had this cover that goes over your deadbolt, and then a giant lock and giant unlock button in their app. Now, from a UI perspective, it's pretty straightforward. Lock, unlock, it's not that bad. But from a UX perspective, when they're creating their 2.0 product, they made a drawing that looks kind of like this. This is the real experience of using Lockatron at your front door. Step 1, you want to open your front door, so you walk up to it. Step 2, you want to open your door, so you pull your phone out of your pocket. Step 3, with a given version of iOS that time that they were using, you want to open your door, so you turn your phone on. Step number 4, you want to open your door, so you slide to unlock. Step number 5, you want to open your door, so you enter your PIN code. Step number 6, you want to open your front door, so you hit the home button to exit your last opened app. Step number 7, you want to open your home door, so you hit the home button to exit your last opened group. Step number 8, you want to open your door, so you swipe to receive icons to try to find the Lockatron app. Step number 9, you want to open your door, so you tap the Lockatron app to launch it. Step number 10, you want to open your door, so you wait for the Lockatron app to load. Step number 11, you want to open your door, so you hit the unlock button. Step number 12, you want to open your door, so you open your door. And they looked at this and they thought, well, something's wrong with this UX. Something's off about this experience. And they wondered, can we eliminate the interface? Can we make a back pocket app? Can we delight people by embracing typical processes instead of screens? And when they looked at this problem differently, when they erased the screens, they thought, well, you know what we can do? We can just put a Bluetooth radio in our deadbolt cover, turn on Bluetooth on the phone, on the app, and when people just walk up to their door, well, they can just open it. It's a back pocket app because it delights the user while your phone just sits in your pocket. It's a totally different approach than what many people are doing in tech today. Now, there are all sorts of interesting ways to implement these kinds of back pocket apps. But what's really fascinating is going from this screen-based thinking, what we've been doing for the last 30 or so years, to screen-less thinking, where I think and want us to be headed. Another approach that some people are taking is around payment. Now, I do want to point out that after launching this app, they raised $2.2 million on Kickstarter, which is really good for a door lock. Now, I mentioned some people were looking at payment, and there's some of my colleagues at Google who are working on something called hands-free. Now, your phone just stays in your pocket or your purse, and while it does, you use your voice to say that you want to pay. And when you do, it triggers a picture of you on the cash register. You pay while the app just sits in your pocket or purse. It's a back pocket app. It delights you while your phone just sits there. There's a startup called Ginger.io that's looking at a number of healthcare solutions. One of their products is a back pocket app for people who suffer from severe depression. Once you opt into it, it monitors the people you're calling, the places you go, the time in which you wake up, and it looks for certain triggers that indicate that depression may be onset. And when that's the case, it helps your friends and family know about it, or your healthcare provider, and alerts them that something may be wrong. Now, it doesn't use form fields. It doesn't ask you to log in. It just monitors you while your phone sits in your pocket. Built with incredible computational muscle, born with the ability to access its own exact location anywhere in the world, created with the innate thinking process to provide more timely and richer knowledge than an entire public library in a millisecond, formed to remember a generation of enlightenment, computing devices have largely turned to us at our worst. The terrible twos, a state of life when we are an emotional wreck, struggling with rules and responding to unexpectedness with simple variations of a single word expressed through our limited vocabulary. No, no, no. No, your username is not valid. No, Chase Bank Online requires numbers in your name. No, your name isn't unique enough for Gmail. Pick another name. No, you can't leave that blank. You need to give us your title, Dr., Mr., or Mrs. It is mandatory at the London Heathrow Airport to connect to Wi-Fi. No, your password is not strong enough. No, it's not long enough. No, it needs an uppercase letter. No, it needs a punctuation mark. No, not that one. No, you cannot use one of your last 20 previous passwords on JetBlue. No, dates have to be MMDDYYYY at the New York Times Online Archive, not MMDDYY. No, I don't care if it'll be another 100 years until that matters again. No, these fields are required. Do it now, or I will turn red with rage. The second principle of the book is to leverage computers instead of serving them, like we just described. If you go to the Smithsonian Museums in Washington, D.C., you'll see a collection of some of our greatest things. Inside the Smithsonian is IBM's supercomputer, Deep Blue. It's famous, of course, because in 1997, it outthought the world's greatest chess player. We had known for hundreds of years that machines could outmuscle us, but to outthink us was a grand achievement. And this supercomputer that was able to do so much compared to the machines the old, awful machines that we hate today, that we want to smash up, maybe even just throw out the window. These terrible machines actually have processing power that far surpasses Deep Blue. Yet we use these amazing processors to create these terrible experiences, where we serve computers, but I think instead we should reverse this relationship. We should have computer systems that serve us. Today there's a new kind of chore, a new set of numerous mindless errands embedded into our already overwhelmingly busy lives. Over the past decade, these tiny requests have been culminating to a larger and larger ball of more and more of our time, taking us farther and farther away from spending more time with our friends and family, or allowing us the free time to make our communities stronger by volunteering. These tasks are the result of graphical user interfaces that assume constant demanding attention as the expected norm. They're the byproduct of screen-based thinking. First world errands for the almighty computer and the apparent productivity software we have to manage. From their roots in delight and harmlessness, you've got mail. They've grown to an endless stream of to-dos and checklists. As our lives continue to become increasingly digital, these tasks have exponentially increased because the standard paradigm in making new software is that we serve the computer, that we live to click. As each old world thing turns digital, the software has more and more requests for you. On a given day, you could have software updates to download and install, passwords to reset, notifications to attend to, files and folders to sort, messages to archive, social media requests to confirm, calendars to update, credit card balances to check, information to verify, storage space to manage and monitor, documents to back up, messages to reply to, photos to upload, flights to check in. These are digital chores, the maintenance of our digital lives. Oh, new version of the operating system is available? Yes, I'd love to download it for the next few hours. These digital chores are nightly, weekly, and monthly errands that can sometimes feel just as mundane and forced as taking out the trash. Sometimes they have even worse consequences than traditional chores. Previously, you forgot to do the laundry and you had to wear an old shirt. Now you forget to accept a request and your friend may not be your friend anymore. You forget to change your password, your account can get hacked, and you can lose all your private pictures, or maybe even all your friends all get porn in their inboxes attributed to you. No, I swear that's not my dick pic. There are some people who are chipping away at these digital chores. They're doing things to restore computing back to what it really should be. There are services we know about, like If This Then That, which have hacker-like software. There are other products and services out there, services like Unroll Me, which try to group all of the newsletters and different kinds of promotional emails you get together. There are services like X.AI, which you can CC on emails to create calendar invites for you. There are some people who are taking things to the third principle of the book, the hardest part about what I describe in the book, which is to create systems that adapt for individuals. Here's a problem that a lot of people in the Western world struggle with: saving money. A startup called Digit plugs into your checking account. And it's not an app that you download, but it's something you set up with your checking account. And it monitors the way you spend money. Based on your spending patterns, it finds ways to save some money every week. And over time, it accumulates more and more money for you in your savings account. Digit didn't launch with an app. Digit didn't measure itself based on how many clicks or taps, how many monthly active users it had. Instead, what Digit looked at was how much money are we saving for people? How meaningful of a product are we? How good are we at solving the problem we're trying to solve? I'm going to wrap up by reading from the last chapter of the book. One day, I hope you think this book is utterly boring, passé, and that you hear about the idea of screenless solutions and yawn. The best interface is no interface? Wake me up when you have something interesting to say. Because if that day comes, remember to celebrate. You'll be living in a better time. Not one drowning in screens with intentionally addictive interfaces that distract us from one another, but one in which typical processes are embraced. When computers serve us instead of us serving them, when technological systems are continuously adapting to our individual needs. A day, probably a few decades from now, when children dress up as their grandparents on Halloween by sticking smartphones to their faces. Look, I'm like grandpa who stares at this giant phone all day. That day will be joyous. I hope that today's marvel becomes tomorrow's mundane. That no UI is like watching a rerun of Friends. But that day may not come. This book is a journey to just one possible future. Some of the companies I've mentioned for taking us toward that future may have already disappeared by the time you've read this book. If there's enough dust on the cover of your copy, some of the examples in this text may feel ancient. I hope the ideas in this book aren't forgotten, but end up as stepping stones to something far greater. A future in which the best case of a graphical user interface has been understood as no interface. Along the way, there'll be battles to be fought inside companies and classrooms, privacy issues to tackle, and other unforeseen hurdles. But when the philosophies settle, the debaters come to agreement, the doers understand how to get it done, and the business plans start to fall into place, we could have something utterly revolutionary in our hands. And when that revolution finally comes to fruition, we may think of it as the most boring, expected solution. No screens? Tell me something I don't know. Here's to hoping for that boredom.